Hey guys, Jeff Levin. Probably most of you are watching, or probably friends and family, but I imagine there's some other people that are watching that are not friends and family. But um, so I wanted to do this video, and I guess it'll be probably three or four little shorter videos rather than one long one on grief, and not something I really wanted to do, but when you're called to do something, you kind of have to walk the walk kind of deal. So it has to do with grief and grieving and situations that my family and I have been in over probably the last 4 or 5 years that have dealt specifically with grief and the grieving process. So this is a little out of my comfort zone. Um, Not that I'm uncomfortable talking to people. Well, I am kind of uncomfortable talking to people, but not people I know. But I'm not used to usually being on camera and recording myself. Not a big fan of listening to myself speak. So that is what it is. But when God puts something on your heart, um, he likes to know that you're going to follow through, and so that's kind of where I'm at. God calls us out of our comfort zones, and we don't grow when we're comfortable. We grow when we're uncomfortable, and when we're challenged is where we find real growth. And so, I really believe that God is challenging me in this area, and especially dealing with grief. I've always seen grief as kind of a personal issue for me. It's a private issue. It's something that not everybody has a right to understand the way that I handle grief and how I grieve. In my rule book, I guess if you want to put it that way, you have to kind of earn that right. Um, and it's a trust issue. It's a vulnerability issue, and I'm not used to being vulnerable in front of people. Most of that has to do with the way that we were raised. So there are very few people actually get to see me grieve. Obviously one of them is my wife, Sherry, and she has earned that right over 27 years of putting up with me. She's earned that right of seeing me grieve and earn that trust from me to be vulnerable to that kind of level in front of her. So, like I said, this is kind of unusual for me. I don't know where the videos will go. What I do know is they will be raw, they will be uncut, they won't be edited. What you see is what you get. I'm just an average, ordinary person, just trying to make it through the world, and I don't know that I have the market cornered on grief and grieving, but I had an interesting conversation. I say conversation with God, but more so a revelation from Him that kind of took me by surprise about grief and how it's not really ours. But we'll get into that more. But He really put on my heart that I needed to kind of be a little more public with this. And again, this is not something that I want to do or wanted to do. I want to please Him. So therefore, here I am on this. So a little bit of background about me. So I grew up as a military brat. My dad was career military for 22 years in the Army. I myself spent 10 years in the Army. I have a brother, my oldest brother spent 10 years in the Navy, and I have a middle brother who spent 6 years in the Marines. So we're a strong military family, but we moved around a lot as kids, obviously. Kind of lived all over the world, but mostly growing up we lived in Europe, in different places in Europe. About every 2.5 to 3 years we moved. So we experienced loss in different ways. Maybe not death of family members, but definitely loss of family and friends about every 2.5, 3 years. The other important thing to note is this is going to come from a Christian worldview, a Christian perspective. And not that Christians have the market cornered on grief or the grieving process, but it is a standard which I measure everything in life against. And is it pleasing to God? Is it in line with what He tells me and what He wants from me? Excuse me, and what I want to do for Him. So please keep that in mind. But this is not, again, exclusive to Christianity. Grief is grief, and we all handle it in different ways, and we all process it differently. And I love diversity, and I love the way that the world works in that way. So I'm always open for broadening my horizon. So as I put these videos out there, wherever I put them, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or wherever it ends up, I'm always open for conversation about it. Mature conversation, of course. Now, like I said, I don't have the market cornered. This is just things that God has put on my heart that He wants me to share that I normally would not be sharing. So again, it's not, there's not going to be music and funny this, that, and the other. It's just going to be me, and who knows where it's going to go, but it's not going to be edited. It's going to be totally raw and uncut. Anyways, that's what this is going to be about, and I hope you guys hang out for the long haul and maybe 3 or 4 videos. I don't know. There's 4 specific incidences that I'm gonna cover in these videos, and kind of how I've dealt with grief from there. So if you're still here, great, thanks. And that'll probably do it for this video, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks. Ciao, Bella.